Hello everyone, here comes our episode 3. Now, if you haven't watched it 1 and 2, maybe you can take a little step back to 1 and 2 and then come to here. Now this episode, we're going to talk about your third step, is how you use your money. It's about budgeting, allocations, and planning. Okay, as I mentioned before, when you use your money, you want to use it in a good way, in the right way. So the budgeting is very, very important, not only for the beginning, but also for a long-term business development. How can you make a sustainable business development in the next future? So this is very important, and all this percentage is accordingly to my own personal experience and information that I collected in the past 12 years when working around with different countries' people in business. Okay, so I hope this is going to help you. Now let's look into what are the categories that we're going to spend money from the very beginning when you start your own business. First, absolutely, is the rent and the deposit. Now, most of us, we do not really own a store that we can have our business. If you do, then good for you. But if you don't, then you absolutely have to pay for rent and the deposit. Now, when it comes to rent and deposit, this is very important because this is one of the most significant reason that's going to affect your future developments. And we'll talk about it and explain it a little later. Now, your rent and deposit add together should be within your budget's 25 to 30%. Okay, 30% is almost like a maximum, and I'll explain it to you why. Okay, the second category is for decorations or renovations. Decoration and renovations most of the time happens because most of the store, they do not really fit in what you need. Now, if you're lucky, you find a store that you do not really have a lot of things to do, that will be better. It will be good for you. But most of the time, the previous user is not exactly in the same industry as you do, then you may have to have some decoration or renovation costs. Okay, in decoration and renovation, as I mentioned in the previous episode, then some of us are always thinking, oh, I need to have an amazing, beautiful designs so that I can make more money because I can charge higher. Well, will that be absolutely a must, or you can have a better control by having control it under 35 to 40%. Now, this is probably the best ratio when it comes to this way. Okay, when you are doing your budgeting. All right. The next things that you will need is the products and tools. Now, I am coming from the service industries, which is beauty industry. No matter it's hair salons, it's beauty salons, or nail salons, they all have both products and tools. So this is also affecting the future service. So, and when it comes to this part, it's also important. Now, if you're not in the service industry, will this be important for you? Yes. Even though you're selling clothes or you're selling some food, okay, you still will have tools. Like, for example, if it's a restaurant, you have table, chairs, and all the rest of the plates and everything that you need. And if you are selling clothes, you still have probably a displays and maybe even a computer for your cashier machines or something like that, right? So that's also considered as tools for the profit-making purpose. Okay. Now the fourth category, which is actually the most important one, is your reserve funds. Okay. Now you probably, if you watch the first and second episode, you realize that I always tells you that keeping certain amount of money with yourself, it's better because it will lower down your stress from the very beginning when you begin your business. This, besides that 10% that I talked about before, this will be another part, and I'll tell you why we need it from our budget. Okay, let's go back to rent and deposit. Why is it so important, and I have to keep talking about it? Very simple. When you choose a store or locations, there's a couple choices that we can basically lay it out. For example, it's a store located on the ground floor. Everybody can walk by, walk in, okay? And then these other types, it's like in a shopping mall, okay? And the third type, probably not really happening everywhere, but in some metro cities like Hong Kong, Taipei, or even Tokyo, they have those stores or shops or spas are actually inside a business or commercial building, which means they're not on ground floor, they may have it on the second floor, third floor, or even higher floors. It depends on the city's development though. So that's basically we can put it as 3 different types of stores that you can choose. Okay. Now besides the type of store, you will have locations. Some people choose locations in commercial centers, compared to commercial areas, while someone will choose it nearby a residential area. Now, what is that between the differences? If you are in our industry, beauty industry, choosing in commercial area, meaning at a certain point, you may not have customers on a Sunday because there's nobody around in a commercial area during a Sunday. If you're choosing a residential area, you might have people come back after work and then maybe your opening hour will have to be a little delayed. Okay. Now, choosing the area also have another facts that you have to consider is, do you have a lot of competition within the same area? Okay. Yeah, I know that you're all up to challenge in competition. That's great. But listen, sometimes when you choose an area with a lot or highly competitive, then your price will be affected by others. For example, if you're in an area, you try to charge $100, but most of the store they only charge for $20. How do you think that there will be a lot of customers come to your store while they only they're like 80% difference? But if you choose, if you want to charge for 100, you better go to choose the area that most of the competitive neighborhood are charging for 70 to 80. That will be closer to your price. And if you are ultimately better designs, you're more comfortable using better products, you still can survive. So choosing a very competitive area or not will exactly affecting your pricing. How do you positioning your business? It's very important. So all these facts we were talking about really have to be considered into when you choose stores. Now, when it comes to shopping mall, also very important. Some shopping malls are very famous and everybody is struggling to get a place, or even a department store. They basically all counters or little areas, they basically kind of like rent it out. Now, some of the shopping malls or department stores, they will say to you, hey, I charge 40% with a minimum of 4,000, meaning if your income is 10,000, they will take 4. When your income is 20,000, they will take 8. Okay, they take which one is higher. Okay, that's one thing you also have to consider when you choose a shopping mall or a department store. Okay, or some of them, they will actually have a centralized cashier, which means you don't have to apply for credit card machines and make it very easy for you. But unfortunately, most of them, because the credit card payment didn't get paid from the bank for another 4 to 8 weeks, then when it comes to you, it may be 12 weeks later, 3 months later. Now, that will also affect, especially from the first 1 year of your floating capital, your cash on hand. So you have to realize that might affecting your developments. Okay. All right. So when you consider that, also you have to consider about the deposit. As for rentals, we have deposit. Some of them they charge you for 2 months. Some of them they said, hey, let's do 3 months. And some stores or some shopping mall, they will say 6 months. Now, what is the difference between here? If you need to pay a 6-month deposit, that means your 30% will make your rent space shrink to very small. Okay, and don't forget one thing: every deposit you make to them, it's no interest. It's the money that's the landlord has owned for the period of time that you're renting their place. Okay, so if you can try to negotiate the deposit down into 2 or 3 months maximum, don't pay for 6 months, because that's really, really tough for you when they're holding 6 months of your rent. Okay, so this is the important points about rent and deposit. Now let's come to decorations and renovations. Now, like we just mentioned, if you're trying to make it very beautiful, hiring an interior designer, good for you. But always remember, interior designer, their expertise is in interior designs, not your expertise. I have a very good example to share with you. I was used to be working in the salon as the manager back years ago in Hong Kong. So that was the year that we basically moved from an area, a store that we used for 7 years, to a new place. We hired one of the most significant, amazing interior design in Hong Kong to design the salon for us. Then when I saw it, I went like, that's interesting. I went into the VIP room they designed, and I found that something is not practical there. What do I mean by that? The interior designer, according to the owner, that they think they want to maximize the seats that they can provide. So in an area of the VIP room, they put 1, 2, and then an L shape, and turn around on this side, they have another seat. So I said, oh, so I can have 3 people in one VIP room. I told them, hey, that seat is not useful. And they look at me like, why? Well, it's very simple. If this one and this one are both occupied by clients, and 2 of the hairstylists are actually one cutting the left side and one cutting the right side, what would happen? They're basically back to back, couldn't move. Okay, so the space, it has to be practical when it comes to especially in surface area. If you are running, for example, like a store selling fashions, clothes, you also have to make sure every aisle is good for the customer to walk through. Restaurant also has a space that needs to be practical. So interior designer may not know exactly what do you need in your design, and that you have to really have a good communication with them and being able to aware of any non-practical designs before they really start the renovations. Okay, and that's very important, so don't forget that. All right, so when it comes to decorations, hiring a designer is great, and it's all up to you for how do you want to design it. But always remember, the budget has to be under control. Okay. To come to the third category, we're talking about products and tours. Okay, if you already watched, again, the previous steps in episodes, you realize that when we talk about products, it's important that you choose the product. First of all, the product you use will be affecting how your price positioning. Second of all, good products keeps customer come back. Sometimes the product is affecting the loyalty of your customers, and that, unfortunately, that is the world. Okay, so you have to recognize the importance of choosing a product. My suggestion for you, make sure the product you choose, you used it already, you tried it already, you know what it is, how to use it. If they have any professional training class, go for a training class before you really buy the product. That will help you to have the best understanding of different brands' products. Okay, now if you are selling other things like clothes and something like that, you also have to make sure that your product is fit in where you're located and for your price positioning. So product is one of the most important things that when it comes to considerations. Okay, now how about tools? Tools including everything that you use for making your living. Now, for example, even the lightings or your air conditionings or any kind of, like, for example, like a towel warmer or even a scissor, a pair of scissors for a hairstylist. They're all considered as tools. Okay, now when it comes to tools, some people will say, hey, let's buy a cheaper one because I just began my business. Now, unless you do not have the confidence, you're going to have a long-term and sustainable business. Otherwise, my suggestions for you is to get a good one. Now, for example, a good pair of scissors can be used for 10 years, 12 years, even 15 years. So why don't you buy a good one, using it for long term, instead of buying something that you only can use it for a year or two, and then you have to buy it again. Let's make an example here. In nail industry, let's talk about electronic files. Okay, there's a different levels of them. Some of them are a couple $100, some of them are cheap, like $100 only. So it's 2 to 3 or even 4 times more expensive. Now you may come back to me and say, I think they work the same way. Actually, as my experience, they're not really working the same way, okay? Because the handle of the one that made in Japan is less vibration compared to the one that made in other places, for example, China or Korea. The vibration, what is the point of that is, if you're holding the handle all the time with the vibration, it's actually harmful for your joints. So that's also considering of your own health, okay? And besides that, usually, for example, like a light, okay? In our industries, we use LED lights or UV lights all the time. You choose one that really works, and it works for a long time. Some products are cheaper, some of the lights are cheaper, but they might not last that much. If one expensive one costs you 100 and the cheaper one is costing you 30, you took the 30, this one can last for 4 years and this one only lasts for 1. Which one is actually cheaper if you consider that, okay? So that will be very important when you choosing products. The last one, which is probably something that you have more curious on. Why do we have to keep so much money? Yeah, because I don't want you to stress and come back to me, hey Jack, I have a problem. I don't know how to do it. Oh my God, I'm over budget. Oh my God, all my money is gone. Yes. This is something that's gonna help you, okay? For example, unfortunately, your decoration and renovation went up, okay, for 5%. So you can take 5 out from here. If they went up 10, you can take 10 from here. At least you give yourself a little space over there. Okay, so this reserve fund is very important. These over budgets could be supported by your reserve funds. If it's 5% more, you take 5. If it's 10, you take 10. And if you're doing great, that you don't have a problem, you didn't even touch your reserve fund, that's even better, because now you can allocate your reserve funds for some other purpose. For example, for the first period of time for promotions, marketing or advertisement costs, that you can take the money out from here. Or if the business is growing really fast, you may need extra money for products or for human resources. That also can come from here. So keeping this certain amount of reserve funds is always better and will make you feel more comfortable for the future developments. So this is all for this episode, and we will continue in the episode 4. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.